All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the RTI Reaction Show. My name is Rick Butler, joined with Ryan Shumpert right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Ryan, no hangover for Tennessee after two top 15 wins. They go into Norman, Oklahoma and get a big SEC win by a score of 70-52. And really, I think you got to start out with the big 45-point first half for Tennessee. That means back-to-back halves from the end of the Missouri game to the start of the Oklahoma game, 102 combined points for Tennessee. What are you seeing out of this Volunteers offense right now that's just able to make it so successful around the basket?
Well, we saw that specific lineup against Missouri in the second half and didn't really I don't think we saw that at all um, today. I know we didn't in the first half. But what the crux of that lineup is playing Jordan Gainey, Kai Ziegler, Chaz Laniers, and Igor Milicic together. And they did do that a good bit with Cade Phillips at the five today, especially when they really got going. But no, I mean, it's a good chunk of it's how well they shot the ball from the perimeter, and they started, I think, 6 of 6, or maybe it's 5 of 5 from three, and shot something like 7 of 10 in the first half, and they cooled off and didn't shoot it that great from the perimeter in the second half, but that goes a long way. Oklahoma is not a great defensive team, and I thought Tennessee, Kai Ziegler especially, just broke him down dribble drive very, very consistently, and we saw the ball gets to the basket. That was something I wrote about in, my three things I was watching for entering the game was, would Tennessee be able to score a little bit better from 2-point range, because Oklahoma is not a good rim defensive team, and we saw that. Ziegler did it well, and we saw it with Chaz Lanier too, who really has not done it a whole lot in SEC play. It felt like he scored more at the basket today than he has in maybe the rest of SEC play combined, at least in the half court.
Yeah, it felt like when you were watching this offense today, it just felt like things were loose, and naturally that's going to be the case when you're talking about a highly successful offense when they're operating at a good condition and a good pace. But it just felt like things were loose for Tennessee's offense. But then the flip side of that as well is that good defense translates to good offense. Tennessee's defense had Oklahoma spinning at times today. There was a stretch towards the end of the game where I think the Sooners were just about 1 of 13 or 1 of 14 from their recent shots. Tennessee's defense was really able to limit Oklahoma and what they wanted to do and kind of keep them off balance. But that to me was just one of the big things that played hand in hand in the first half. Yes, you had that great shooting and especially from the perimeter, but then Tennessee's defense on the other end of the court wasn't lacking at all either.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and I think maybe the first 8 minutes, something like that, first two media timeouts, Oklahoma had a good bit of success offensively, and then from there, Tennessee just turned the tap off. And you're right. I mean, Tennessee's offense was not very good in the second half. I don't know. Some of that you could probably say is the gist of they missed some shots, but some of it you can just say is the gist of, all right, they were up by a ton. They probably had a little bit of taking their foot off the pedal. But its defensive side of the game, I mean, never got close. They were absolutely suffocating. I think specifically just on this game, Jeremiah Fears, who's Oklahoma's top guy, top 20 usage rate in the entire country, he comes into this game. He was banged up. He was a game time decision after suffering an injury at Auburn on Tuesday. So, maybe a little bit limited, but Tennessee completely took him out of the game. 8 points, 3 of 8 shooting, 1 turnover, 1 assist, 3 turnovers is kind of the guy. He's more of a combo guard, but more the guy that runs Oklahoma's offense a lot. So I think that was a big part of it. And then just the rim defense as a whole was phenomenal in this game. Tennessee had 8 blocks, 4 of them from Felix Okpara. And then I guess to put some perspective on it, Oklahoma's a good offensive team. They came in today ranked 15th in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency, and Tennessee shut them down, 52 points. Kind of similar going back to a stat last Saturday against Florida. 52 points, the lowest of the season for Oklahoma by a 10-point mark. Last Saturday in Norman, Oklahoma scored 61 points in the second half against Vanderbilt in a big comeback win. So you're right. I think the offense is what slaps you in the face from this game. But like you said, the defense goes hand in hand. And I think if you're talking about why Tennessee won as decisively as they did, that dominant of a defensive performance probably had even more to do with it than a good offensive showing.
Yeah, Ryan, and when you talk about these last 3 games that Tennessee has won, you go back to the Florida game last Saturday, the Missouri game on Wednesday, and then this game here today. Yes, Missouri is a really good offensive team, especially from the perimeter. Yes, they got in their 81 points, but you look at Florida, a 20-point win. Florida only scores 44 points. That's a very high level offensive team right there. And then you look at Oklahoma. You just mentioned it. They're certainly no slouches either. And Tennessee holds them to 50 points in a 20-point win as well. 2 out of these last 3 showings, and again, the Missouri game had its own qualities of being impressive and whatnot, but just being able to limit these 2 teams between Florida and Oklahoma, two out of the last 3, 2 well below their season average, 250 points or below. I think that's obviously when Tennessee's playing at its best, but then you see the offense come alive at different times as well. Again, you talk about this game, and then you talk about the Missouri game as well, especially the 57 points in the second half in that one. And you just see some things starting to really come together for Tennessee at the right time.
For sure, and I think, Tennessee's had some not great defensive showings as of late. Not a ton of them really, but a couple sprinkled in amidst these handful of really good ones. But I just think you look at Tennessee's schedule; they're in the midst of a 6-game stretch here, where, started with the Auburn game. Auburn's first in the country in offensive efficiency. Then you move on to Kentucky. Kentucky's second in the offense, second in the country in offensive efficiency. Florida is sixth in the country in offensive efficiency. Missouri is 11th in the country in offensive efficiency, and then, like I said, Oklahoma 15th in the country in offensive efficiency. And then Tennessee will go back and play at Kentucky on Tuesday night to face the second best offense in the country again. So you're talking about a six game stretch where Tennessee is facing top 15 offenses in the country every single game. And then it'll finally slow down a little bit when they face Vanderbilt next Saturday. And Vanderbilt's probably the team more than anything. I talk about some bad defensive performances. Vanderbilt's probably the one you circle because Vanderbilt does not have a great offense, and they gave Tennessee a lot of issues. So just a real tough gauntlet of a stretch. Obviously, not just
no
when
kidding.
you talk about opponents. Tennessee had played 5 straight teams in the top 25 before today, but particularly offenses that are really good. And it's just big. To me, I think it's big to get this win from the sense of how hard it is to win on the road this year. It feels like these teams in the lower half of the league, Tennessee really needs to beat. They got one at Texas. That's why that Vanderbilt loss on the road was so disappointing, as it felt like that's not that Vanderbilt's bad or anything. You're just not going to get too many games on the road this year that were too much easier. So I think when you looked at the rest of Tennessee's schedule entering today, I was like, they need to win at Oklahoma. They need to win at LSU. And then from the Vols perspective, hopefully they find a way to get one at Kentucky or get one at Ole Miss or get one at A&M. You pick a couple up there, but those games are going to be very, very difficult. So just a really important win for Tennessee and one of their more complete showings, at least of SEC play, if not the entire season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you talk about that Kentucky game, you talk about the Vanderbilt game. Well, hey, this is kind of revenge week for Tennessee, as those are their next 2 opponents over the next 7 days. You go to Lexington, take on Kentucky, got to try to steal one on the road, and then you welcome Vanderbilt in next Saturday to the Food City Center at 1:00 p.m. Revenge week coming up for Tennessee, but you hit the nail on the head. Again, you go back to that 2-game losing streak to Auburn and Kentucky. Again, no shame in losing to the number 1 team in the country on their own court, but just the way that Tennessee's been able to respond from that with 3 straight wins, 2 of them over top 15 opponents. And then again, I know that, some people might downplay a little bit, but I do believe there is an element of compiling up a statement win, going to Oklahoma on the road, an early game. Yes, Oklahoma's unranked, but for some of the reasons that you mentioned, but just also for the reason of saying, hey, the SEC is a good league. Even the unranked teams aren't good, but Tennessee was still able to go to somebody else's building and put together a 20-point win. At one point, Tennessee was almost leading by 30 points in the second half. So a really impressive showing, I think, for Tennessee. And again, you got to come back to Knoxville, try to reset, try to get the focus back ready as Revenge Week comes up next for Tennessee, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt on tap. Ryan, any other kind of final thoughts from Tennessee's big win over Oklahoma today in Norman?
Yeah, a handful of them actually, and probably
Okay.
the result of me having rambled so much about
No,
other
I
things
think I
earlier.
sidetracked to just kind of schedule conversation. So
Yeah, big
let's
picture.
bring it back. Yeah, I'll
Look,
take the
yeah,
blame.
no, it's a teamwork on the blame. But yeah, no, it's what you said. More things about today's game. In one, you just hit on it. Like Tennessee was up by 30 in the second half. It felt like they really could have won by more than 18. It felt more dominant than an 18-point win. The bad, Tennessee's got to clean up turnovers. Turned it over 19 times tonight. That was a big issue. Or this afternoon, I should say. You cut that to 10, you probably win this game by 35 points. And then I mentioned it a bit earlier, but Tennessee 12 12 of 16 at shots in the rim. Feels like by far the best they've been in SEC play in that number. That's been a consistent struggle for them. So that was a good sign. And then, yeah, I mean, when you're going on the road, these tough games, just these big games in general, and certainly there's a lot of them, but I certainly feel this way on the road. You need Zakai Ziegler and Chaz Lanier to be good. Those are your top guys, and both those guys were really good today. Chaz Lanier hits his first 3 triples, missed his final 7 after that, but still found ways to score at a game high 21 points. And then Zakai Ziegler, he had 4 turnovers. That obviously, just mentioned Tennessee needs to get those figured out. But besides that, a really good performance. 17 points, 6 of 8 shooting, 3 of 4 from deep, 9 assists, 4 steals. So those two guys, those are the guys Tennessee needs consistency from. They've really gotten, outside of some 3-point shooting numbers, they've gotten consistency from Zakai Ziegler when he's been able to go in SEC play. But good sign for Tennessee to have both Ziegler and Lanier have a big day.
Yeah, looking at some of the other numbers from today, Tennessee dominates the rebounding competition 35-21. Tennessee's got 8 scores in the game. You mentioned 21 for Lanier and 17 for Zakai. Zakai Ziegler pretty much lives in a near double-double range or a double-double. He had 17 and 9 again today. And then a slew of other contributors. Milicic and Okpara both go for 8. Dubar and Gainey both go for 5. Phillips goes for 4, and then Meshack got you 2 as well. Bishop Boswell, the only player to hit the court today that did not score for Tennessee, but that rebounding number big. Again, though, Tennessee had a big bludgeoning advantage throughout the majority of the game. I believe it was around 13-12 after the first 2 or 3 minutes, trading shots back and forth. And then after that, Tennessee went on a massive run, took the lead, and never looked back, able to keep the Sooners at arm's length to pick up their... I should have been more prepared. We don't have our box score right in front of us, but to pick up around their 19th win of the season. Do you think
20th win of the season?
20th win of the season. Okay, the big 2-0.
Yep.
You move out of the teen range. You're now at 20. What is it? 20-4?
20-4, 7-4 in the SEC.
All right, my friend. Well, you and I are going to be gearing up for a trip to Lexington here sometime soon. Always a pleasure to go see a great rivalry game up in Lexington, which is what we're going to be doing this week. And then again, we'll both be in the Food City Center on Saturday for a little bit of an in-state battle between Tennessee and Vanderbilt as Tennessee looks for revenge in both contests this week. We'll be still covering this game throughout Saturday afternoon. In case you're watching this video around when it released, head over to RockyTopInsider.com to see all of the Tennessee news, notes, and coverage from this game here today. But stick with us throughout the week as well as we bring you the latest from the court in Knoxville. It's Ryan Shumpert. You can follow him at rshump00. I'm Ric Butler. You can follow me at Ric_Butler. Ryan, anything else before we wrap this thing up today on a nice Saturday afternoon?
That's all I got.
All right, getting it done nice and easy today before 2:20 p.m. Only got a little bit more post-game work. That is a win in my book. Thanks for listening to the RTI Reaction Show today. We'll see you back in Lexington for the next one.